welcome back. I'm Pat, that Halloween movie collector. This time around, we're going to rank the studio albums from the 80s from Kiss. I had so much fun last week doing the ranking of the 70s albums, which are my favorite albums of all time. And now with these rankings, like I mentioned, it's just in an order of like, because I don't hate any of these albums. I mean, some people might really not like some of the Kiss albums, and they're very, very vocal about it, but I love them all. And this is just simply a ranking to say, well, where does it go? From my least favorite of the 80s to my favorite of the 80s. So there's 8 albums, studio albums, that were released in the 1980s. So let's do this. Released on October 17th, 1989, Hot in the Shade. Now, this album, from what I've read and researched over the years, is basically was like a compilation of demos. And the production is a little shoddy. The songwriting, not so great on it either. I mean, albeit it's very sentimental because it is the last album that the late, great Eric Carr does appear on. And actually even gets a vocal on Little Caesar, which is, they finally let him do a lead vocal. And sadly, a year after this was released, he died from cancer. So it's just a shame. But there's a song or two on here. You got Hide Your Heart, which everybody did from Ace Frehley to you name it. They all just did a version of that. You have Rise to It, which everybody loved, the MTV generation, because you got to remember now, this is non-makeup Kiss. So they did that video to Rise to It where they opened up with them putting on their makeup and talking about putting the makeup back on, and lo and behold, what happened 7 years after this. Yep, and they're still putting the makeup on to this day. Silver Spoon, Boomerang, some of the songs are mediocre, but they're catchy. That's where it lands. Number 8 on this list. Number 7, released on September 17th, 1984, Animalize. Now, this is the only album to feature the late, great Mark St. John on it. Records the album, gets ready to start touring, and he's having problems with his hands. And the writer syndrome took over, and he couldn't play anymore. So, what did they bring in? Bruce Kulick, who was supposed to be fill-in, but eventually would take his spot because it just wasn't getting any better at that point. And unfortunately, he died very young, too, a few years back. So it's kind of tragic. Here you are, you got that chance, and then this happens to you, and then he did die at a young age, which was unfortunate. And of course, the songs in this were good. I liked what Mark St. John did with this. I mean, of course, the big breakout is Heaven's on Fire. That's the biggest hit, and they play it in their set to this day. And Thrills in the Night was good. While the City Sleeps, Burn, Bitch, Burn. There's some good songs on here. It's solid. It's, as I mentioned, it's just got to find a place, and for me, it's number 7. Number 6, released on September 16th, 1985, nearly 1 year to the day that they released Animalize, Asylum. Now, this is a good, solid album, too. It's, now you have a full album with Bruce Kulick on it, and Bruce Kulick, let's face it, while my favorite Kiss guitarist is easily Ace Frehley for the style, the songwriting, the guitar playing, the tone. I'm a guitar player. Bruce Kulick was probably easily the most talented, the most proficient at his craft. Just an incredible guitar player. And this did have some real breakout hits in the MTV video era. You had All Night, Tears Are Falling. You had Who Wants to Be Lonely. Some real solid songwriting on here, and the production was. This is probably one of the better produced albums, in my opinion, and sounding wise, of the '80s studio albums. King of the Mountain, Any Way You Slice It, just front to back, this was a solid release, and I really do like it. That's why it's pretty much almost right in the middle. November 10th, 1981. Now we get controversial. The Elder. I love The Elder. I mean, when it got released, I was younger. 1981, I was 9 years old. I still liked it as a Kiss album because anything Kiss put out, I just loved at that age. As I got older, of course, you can start to discern things that you may or may not like and compare it to other things. But I like it. It's got some fun stuff on there. It's got some great tunes. Albeit, I would have loved if it would have turned into a feature film. I mean, that's the whole thing. It had Chris Makepeace, who I loved at the time because My Bodyguard, he was, God, Meatballs is one of my favorites. It just would have been great to see that actually go to screen. We all know it didn't. But there's some fun stuff on here. The Oath, Mr. Blackwell. Good songwriting and good production. I mean, they brought back Bob Ezrin thinking they're going to get lightning in a bottle, like what they had with Destroyer. And of course, his head was, all you Kiss fans probably know this whole backstory. His head was very clouded in drugs. And he had just come off doing the Wall with Pink Floyd. So he's like, hey, let's do a concept album. Let's show everybody how talented Kiss is. And let's do this concept album. Big mistake. But there was some good stuff on here. Was probably one of the bigger breakout songs, especially they actually did it live on the TV show Fridays at the time. And of course it just bombed here. It didn't go anywhere. They went and toured a little bit in Europe, and everything just kind of shut down. But I like this album, and it's actually found an audience as time has progressed, and Kiss fans that were super pissed off are starting to digest it and accept it. And to me, it's a fun listen to. It's enjoyable. Number 4, released September 21st, 1987, Crazy Nights. Now, this might be a little controversial because this was like the era of the overproduced albums. There's a lot of synth in here, a lot of keyboards in here. But this found its place on this list a little bit higher up because of nostalgia. I was in high school in 1987. I remember listening to this all the time. I had just started playing guitar, and it was just a very nostalgic time in my life. So I just remember all the, Crazy, Crazy Nights on there. Just great video because this was still the MTV era. I do remember sitting in my room trying to figure out how to play No, 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 that incredible guitar solo intro from Bruce Kulick. There's some fun songs on here. I'll Fight Hell to Hold You, Thief in the Night, Turn on the Night, which was semi-hit because they actually did a video for it. So, a little overproduced, sure. A little bit too polished, but I enjoy it. Number 3, released September 18th, 1983. This is where they took it off. Look it up. I ran, because back then I remember they were doing the unveiling on MTV, and I had missed it live, and it's not like you could just go stream it. I had to wait till they show it again when they actually did that unveiling with J.J. Jackson was the VJ at the time. So I remember when it finally hit the record store, which was the next town over for me, I went in there I just wanted to see the cover because, I didn't watch a lot of TV back then. We only had one TV in the house. It was the early age of like cable. So I didn't really see too much. So I would just want to go see what they looked like without their makeup. For real, for years, they always had pictures that was supposedly them that would show up in like, People Magazine, Star, National Enquirer, and half the time they were always wrong. So this was the first time I was going to get to see them. And I bought the record, took it home, listened to it, and I was like, wow, this is good. It had real good sound, albeit it wasn't Ace Frehley. You had Vinnie Vincent in there, who, despite his miscomings, his shortcomings rather, as being like kind of a dick and full of himself and really just, just being an idiot, having the chance of a lifetime and kind of just blowing it. He was a great songwriter, a good guitar player, a lot of great riffs. I mean, you got to remember, he played on Creatures of the Night, too. It wasn't Frehley, so he played on that, too, along with Dick Wagner, I think, too, at the time. And this is just a solid hard rock album. I mean, you had the groundbreaking Lick It Up video where it's like in this post-apocalyptic world, which is really weird. And they were getting a lot more shit than they even did before about violence in music videos and violence in songs. So it was all that bullshit was back then. The PMRC was just starting around that time, right before that, with all that nonsense. But you had, Not for the Innocent on here, Young and Wasted, and On the Eighth Day. What else is on here? It's great. Exciter. Oh, this is an amazing album, which, I mean, it gets a lot, but it really should get a lot more because it really is a fantastic album. And number 2, released on May 20th, 1980, Kiss Unmasked. Yeah, this is high up on the list, which might be a little controversial for people because there really is the era of the real Kiss pop record. I mean, you just come off Dynasty, which was considered like the disco record. And this was not so much disco, but more pop, very polished and poppy music. But this also falls into that nostalgia category. 1980, Kiss was, for all intents and purposes, still together. Although we really, we didn't hear too much about it because it wasn't really, there was no social media to find out all the shit going on behind the scenes. Where, it didn't find out until years later that Peter Criss didn't even play on these 2 albums. I mean, he played one song on Dynasty. He played nothing on this album. So you didn't hear all the bullshit that went on behind it. And he was technically out of the band, but they've used his image because they wanted to keep up the appearances. They even did a Shandy video, and he actually did the video with them, even though he wasn't even part of the band at the time. So pure nostalgia, And the songs are like poppy and polished, you know, like Shandy, Tomorrow, Two Sides of the Coin, just Torpedo Girl. There's a lot of fun stuff on this album. Talk to Me, She's So European. It's just a fun album, and it's easily like a half hour. It's a quick listen to if you want to go back to and be a little nostalgia for that, like 1980, because it was the turn of the decade, 1980. You know, where was Kiss gonna go? Because now they did lose a lot of their audience, but with Dynasty and the ticket sales and the concerts on that tour, not so great. And now here, where are they going to go from here? And now they weren't popular at all. So where did they go? They were huge in Australia. They took the tour to Australia. And on top of it, now you had Peter Criss, who was technically on the album, but he wasn't. And now they had to introduce a new member, because I remember that bombshell when I heard that Peter Criss left. I was like, oh my God, couldn't believe it. And then everybody came to embrace Eric Carr, because just a great drummer, amazing drummer, and all you heard was good things about him being such a nice person, and he really was. I never had the chance to meet him. I met most of the guys in the band, didn't get a chance to meet him, which I regret to this day, but heard nothing but good things about him. So that is my number 2, Unmasked. And of course, here we are at number 1, October 13th, 1982, Creatures of the Night. Now, this was them trying to return to form after the blunders of Unmasked, well, semi-blunder of Dynasty, because they had a huge hit, and I Was Made for Loving You. It was enormous. But trying to make up for what they did with Unmasked, and of course trying to make up for the big downfall of The Elder, says, okay, let's come back and make something heavy and hard and just hit them hard. And they did. I mean, the sad thing is this album is great, and it bombed at the time. Because at that time, I guess some of their audience was kind of getting a little bit older, and they were moving on to something different. Music was changing. A lot of new wave shit was coming in. So that was becoming the bigger thing to listen to. So at the time, it didn't do well. It's only over the years gotten bigger in reputation and stature, and found its way higher up on people's lists. I liked it from day one. I thought it was awesome. The cover looked amazing. Little did we know that Ace Frehley had left the band. They didn't play a lick on it. There you go again. But I remember getting that for Christmas that year, and I put it on, and I'm like, oh man, what a great album. From the classic Creatures of the Night, which just crushes when it opens up, the drums, the heavy guitar, to probably my favorite song on that album, which is War Machine. What a great freaking song, War Machine. You have Saint and Sinner, I Still Love You. Unbelievable, great songs. So that is my ranking of the Kiss studio albums from the 1980s. Next week, I'll probably do the ranking of the Kiss studio. It's going to get smaller and smaller depending on how many they put out in that decade, but next week, I'll probably do the ranking of the Kiss studio albums in the 90s. At some point, I'll go back and do the live albums. Probably just do a standalone episode on the solo albums, because I can talk a lot about that. You got 4 albums there, and 4 very diverse albums. So there's a lot to talk about in that. And I don't think when I rank that, it probably won't be a big surprise to most Kiss fans how that ranking will go. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoyed last week when I did the 70s studio albums. I'll throw a link up here. Go check it out. A lot of fun. I'm doing I also do reviews on this channel, and I just did a movie review of Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, so be sure to keep your eyes open for that. That was a lot of fun. Reliving from frame to frame on that movie, giving it a bit of a ranking, a little backstory of some of the actors and actresses. Just great. I love that movie. While it was panned at the time, and Kiss doesn't even embrace it. They just want to run the fuck away from it. I love it. I was 6 years old, seeing it live on TV. Couldn't wait. Watched it with my cousins. But I tell the whole story. Go check out the review, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. So make sure you like this video. It does help people find this channel. Make sure you check out some of the other content in here. Obviously, it's primarily horror and movie related. I'm starting to do a little bit more with the Kiss stuff, because Kiss is my other passion. It has been since I was 5 years old. So I just thought, let me do some reviews on Kiss. I've been listening to a lot of Kiss again lately. And started the 70s movie review. And I said, well, you know what? Why don't I do freaking Kiss Meets the Phantom? Love that movie. Granted, you can say what you want about it. It's still fun to watch. It really is. It's not Oscar worthy, but it's fun to watch. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Hopefully you'll find some content here. There'll be some more KISS stuff. I don't know if it's going to be on a weekly basis, probably until I get through all the album rankings and stuff. And then we'll do some more stuff after that. But go check out everything else. I mean, KISS tends to go hand in hand in horror. So if you like horror, if you like Halloween, there's all sorts of shit here. So go check it out. Hopefully you like something. And check out all the links in the description below. The horror podcast I do with my buddies. We do live watch-alongs on Tuesday nights. We do all sorts of shit. Well, yeah, all the links are there. All the Happy Horse shit is there. So go check it out. Hopefully you find something you like. And until then, I'll talk to you soon.